right, everybody. Aaron Breitman for the Scarlet Faithful. Minutes after Rutgers lost to Michigan, number 5 Michigan, undefeated Michigan, 52-17. Obviously, inspiring first half. Lot to like, lot to be hopeful for in the future with the way Gavin Wimsatt played in the first half, the way Rutgers played. Leading 17-14 at the half. Wimsatt made some really big throws, I thought. Rutgers was aggressive in their play calling. They were very physical on defense. Special teams was making big plays. I mean, it was, I don't want to say a thing of beauty, but it was certainly really enjoyable and reason for hope. And then it all fell apart in the third quarter in glorious fashion and really started with those two just such costly penalties. Overall, Rutgers was better with penalties tonight, only 5 overall, 3 under their per game average for the season. But, that third down, Wimsatt completes 3rd and 11 to Shameen Jones, gets the first down, called back, waved off because of that holding by Willie Tyler, which really didn't affect the play. Just demoralizing, really, and was really the beginning of the end. You go from extending the drive and kind of putting more pressure on Michigan to then a 3 and out. And then on the punt, inexcusable. Christian Braswell, who's had a very good season, veteran guy, gets called for that pass or kick catch interference, I think it's called, where he got in the space of the punt returner for Michigan. 15-yard penalty. Instead of starting at their own 31, they start at their own 46. Of course, they're going to score a touchdown in that situation. You just knew it was going to bite them. And then the floodgates open from there. Then you have the 3 interceptions from Wimsatt. Obviously, costly mistakes. The first one was just a really bad read. He didn't see the safety drop into the route, and that was just a throw he shouldn't have made. Second interception, Crookshank, I thought was a good decision. I think Wimsatt has to learn to be able to take a little bit off on a throw like that in short range. It was really a bullet. But at the same time, I thought the second and third interception, the receivers deserve a little bit of blame too. I think Crookshank, he barely got his hands up. He's running right across the middle of the field. I don't know how long he was waiting to, think he was going to be an intended receiver, but it just seemed a little bit of a slow misunderstanding on his part as well. But again, Wimsatt's got to show better touch there. It goes up in the air. It's picked off. And then the third interception was the worst throw of the night, the worst decision of the night. Crossed the field into double coverage, basically a jump ball that Shameen Jones really didn't jump for, which kind of boggled my mind. I mean, as a receiver, you got to fight harder for that to break up the interception. He did Wimsatt no favors there. Still a terrible throw by Wimsatt. Should not have made it. A bad read and just unnecessary, which leads me to the play calling. I thought, I love the aggressiveness in the first half, but I think they had to have a little bit more awareness in the second half. I thought that Nunzio Campanelli, as much as Gavin Wimsatt's development is about making mistakes and, taking chances and, obviously he made some big throws and highlighting his talent level, you need to protect him also in terms of his mindset and just, not developing bad habits. And I just didn't think it was necessary. I know they completed a 28-yard pass to Aaron Crookshank on the drive before the third interception, after the second interception. But that was, that was kind of it was definitely a better route, a better play call. But regardless, I just think that, they needed to have a little bit more awareness and just, looking out for Wimsatt a little bit. I think he was obviously a little bit rattled. And to put him in that situation with second down, they didn't need to throw a deep ball in that situation. Maybe that was just Wimsatt's bad decision, but I just think that, again, Campanelli has to be aware of the situation for Wimsatt and his mindset and be able to take that off the table. You need to eliminate certain things that are going to lead to bigger mistakes. And I thought in that case, they didn't do a good job. So I think, overall for me, the biggest takeaways in this is that the things that killed them in the third quarter, and first of all, let's give Michigan credit. They came out of the second half and they played like a team that wants to win the national championship. They want to get back to the college playoff, and they looked like they wanted to do that tonight. Rutgers, and I think Rutgers gets a little credit too. They got under their skin. They legitimately scared them in the first half, and I think Michigan responded like championship teams do. So I think that's actually, a compliment to Rutgers, to be honest with you. But in terms of the issues that happened, the penalties, The lack of, not even the lack of run game, a non-existent run game, which by the way puts so much pressure on Wimsatt. They finished for 14 yards. I think it was minus point seven yards per carry, which was greatly helped by Parker Day, the walk-on, 3 carries for like 12 yards in the last drive of the game. It really would have been worse than that. I mean, they had no run game. And, even at the half, with Rutgers leading, they had 1 rushing yard. They had 9 minutes of time of possession. There really was very little chance to win the game. And there's very little chance that Rutgers is going to win a game without a rushing attack. And Samuel Brown is out for the year. And they don't have any answers. They don't have any other answers in the running game. And it just is tough because it creates a harder situation for Wimsatt to develop. But you have the penalties, you have the non-existent run game, you have the red zone defense. Listen, the defense got put in some bad spots tonight. They short fields. There's no reason to rip them per se, but 7 red zone opportunities for Michigan, 7 scores, 6 touchdowns. Rutgers has now allowed opponents 25 trips to the red zone this year, 25 scores, 21 touchdowns. That's just not going to cut it. The defense has its strengths, and I'm really high on the defense overall. They're younger. They have a lot of guys that are going to return, next year, most of them. But this is an area that's a problem. That's not going to win you games. And Rutgers isn't going to win games if every time an opponent gets into the red zone, they're going to mostly score a touchdown. If it was 25 or 25 and it was split touchdowns, field goals, feel a little bit better about it, or a lot better about it, I guess. But 21, that's, what is that? I'm trying to do math this late at night. 84% touchdowns, I think it is. That's just awful. And Michigan, was even struggling a little bit coming into this, and they're 7 for 7. So, huge problem going into it. So run game, lack of run game, penalties, red zone defense, Wimsatt's turnovers, are all just issues that are going to make it very difficult for this team to win again in 2022. Now, that being said, this is Michigan. They're number 5 team in the country. They're undefeated. And Rutgers put a legitimate scare into them in the first half. They played inspired football, let's be honest. So they were prepared. The coaching staff did a great job in getting this team prepared. They had a mindset that was, they came out aggressive. They were physical. They played the way we've always wanted them to play, and if they had played this way last week, it would have been a much different game. Obviously they're at home under the lights. It was great to see. Everything that was great about the first half was awful about the second half. But that is going to happen with a young team, and they actually flashed it on the screen. And I remember this game, 2002, they took number 1 Miami. They had a lead going into the fourth quarter. I think it was 14-10. And then Miami scored 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or something. It was like 42-14 or 17, something like that. But, eerily similar. I think Rutgers is, better than that team. That Miami team was one of the greatest college football teams of all time. So that was a sign that things were, potentially getting better in the future, and they did. So we may look back at this game and say, hey, look, remember how they did against Michigan in that first half? That was a sign of things to come. So obviously it's going to take a while for them to put it all together. But as the concerns I mentioned, the lack of run game, the penalties, Wimsatt's turnovers, which are going to happen. But tonight, I think, it's just he got in a really tough spot and it just snowballed on him. And I think, I think the coaching staff really needs to reevaluate. And I'm not saying they should pull him, but, don't put him in bad spots after a couple mistakes are made. I think you can live with it. You're not going to beat Michigan after those 2 turnovers. You don't want to put a third on his stat line. You just don't. Just for his confidence. Part of his development is building his confidence, and going for it and being aggressive is part of that. But it's also knowing when to rein it back in. And I think they didn't do a great job on that. But overall, just, certainly these next 3 games, I mean, Michigan State, at Michigan State, they beat Illinois on the road today. They're going to be fired up. They're playing better now, so it's going to be a very tough game. But listen, if Rutgers can run the football, not turn it over, stop teams in the red zone, and stop with the stupid penalties. I mean, it's not brain surgery. They just have to execute better. So let's hope they do. But certainly some positives tonight. And then all the negatives that came back to haunt them in the second half. Thanks so much for watching this video and following all my coverage at thescarletfaithful.com.